welcome our viewer. Thank you so much for always keeping it here and tuning to Prayer Cave TV. We know this is a place you come and get edified, equipped with so much information that help you to make your life better and impact the people around you. And as we usually say, this is a program that comes to you every single Saturday at 7 p.m. to equip you as a young person and make you edified and give you the right information even as you navigate through life. And we come and discuss issues that are affecting the young people. And as we say, hapa, we make sure we come out with a solution. And if not, how do we go about the situation? My name is Maureen Boyani, and this is your all-time sport, the Youth Nation show. And today we are having a very interesting topic. Why do I say interesting? Because it's something that looks so a bit far-fetched from the young people. It's not something they kind of talk in their normal conversations, but we are going to talk about sustainable finance. And what exactly is sustainable finance? Is it just investing in a sustainable investment or what? But we are going to dive into this topic and get to know more because we have an expert in the studio. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Kindly just introduce yourself to our viewer tonight.
My name is Ruben Mohendo Wamboi, and I'm an economist and also a climate finance specialist. So that is what I do. And so what you've introduced about sustainable finance, that is what I am mostly doing.
Great.
Yes.
So we are on the right path. And maybe to start off with, what exactly do we mean when we say sustainable finance?
So I know a lot of our viewers, they've heard about finance.
Definitely.
So when you say about finance, for example, for me, what comes to mind, I think about a bank. I think about a circle, because watu wameingia kwa circles.
It is true.
And also people have chamas. And also, you know, a lot of people wanafanya biashara. So wherever you get your source of finance.
Yeah.
And then now, what is sustainable finance? What makes it sustainable? Now, sustainable finance, now the sustainability aspect is where you're saying people have over time become conscious about taking care of the environment.
Yeah, sure.
And people have become conscious about thinking about future generations. Because if we are not careful, we might end up doing business in a way that destroys the environment very much. That is number one. Or we might end up doing business in a way that puts future generations at risk. So sustainability is saying, how do we do our activities and how do we do our businesses in two ways. One, in a way that we are not destroying the environment as much. And two, in a way that we are taking care of future generations. So when you start thinking of these two elements in finance, that is what makes it sustainable finance. So any viewer going forward, when you hear about sustainability or sustainable finance, you need to think about environmental protection and you have to think about future generations. Yes.
Now, you've mentioned about the banks, and as we see the current trends, banks have moved from just the modern, the ancient banking or traditional banking, which was about just making profit for them. And they've gone an extra mile of now having a sustainable investment per se. And currently our economy has been on a linear, that is production, we consume, we waste. But there's a difference that is coming because nowadays we are trying to recycle things, we are trying to reuse things. What do you think is the impact that this thing is bringing to our society?
I think one, it's making us as a youth inatufanya more conscious, you know, how we do things. For example, let me give a practical example. For me growing up, I used to hear my mom always say, "Ebu zima yo stima." I think we all had that.
It is common in every household.
Because you leave your lights on. Now as an adult, I realize, I used to think it's just about the bill, which is true. But also it's about something else. It's about energy efficiency. Because we don't want to waste power. Because realize every power that you use, even in this studio, it has taken a lot of money, resources to produce it. I was at a conference this week and the CS for energy, Davis Chirchir, was there, and he was really talking about the cost of producing energy. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Just to produce that 1 kilowatt, that 1 megawatt of power is a lot. So we are thinking about energy efficiency. And let me even bring it further home so that our audience can relate. You've probably heard of jikokoa.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, the cook stoves.
Yeah.
You know, for a long time, a lot of people use firewood and use charcoal. But in the process, if you ukiwasha moto nje, ukiwasha moto, for example, a lot of the hiyo moto inaenda to waste because inapotelea huku kando. Now what the likes of jikokoa they have come to do, they have come to create a stove. That stove you can either use your charcoal, you can use your briquettes, but the way they have made it, it's so energy efficient. You may probably need half the amount of charcoal you would have used in an open fire within this cook stove. So what does that cook stove achieve? It reduces the amount of charcoal that you can use. It reduces the amount of briquettes that you can use, because the technology of how they have made this stove ama jikokoa is so that you can use less fuel to achieve the same outcome. Kama ni maji unachemsha, kama ni kupika unapika, kama unapika githeri with the jikokoa, it takes less charcoal. And now because we are talking about youths and sustainable finance, some youths have ventured into that. You find youths who are in the business of making briquettes.
Yeah, true.
They make briquettes and now they tell people badala ya kutumia this charcoal and burning down wood, why don't you use briquettes? Because you just need very few briquettes to cook your githeri or to cook your whatever you're cooking. And that now is the intersection of, so these people thinking about the environment has really made us conscious and say, what are some of the businesses that people can do which have an environmental aspect to it? So I've given you the example of jikokoa. I've given you the example of briquettes. Let me even come further home. Solar.
Yeah, it's common.
A lot of people now are using solar.
Yeah, true.
Because sometimes Kenya Power wanatufanya ile kitu.
Especially nowadays.
God. And now people are saying, a lot of power, although Kenya we are blessed because a lot of our power in Kenya comes from geothermal and hydro. I remember tulikuwa primary school, tulikuwa naenda trips za kwenda Kindaruma Dam and all these dams to see how hydropower is generated. But now you find some countries, the power comes from things like oil, things like gas, ama coal, ukienda mahali kama South Africa. So when they move to solar, that is sustainable. It is sustainable because you're now using natural sources like hydro, because inatumia maji. So that is what sustainability is. And so you realize now there are young people who they are going into that business in two ways. Either someone has moved in the solar business, so kama mtu anafanya kazi ya stima, ameacha tu kufanya wiring. They have moved into selling solar panels. Like us as our home, we recently installed solar floodlights because we realized in our home at our gate we had put unaona hizi bulbs ni kama za security, but sasa unaona inatumia stima the whole day. Now we installed a solar floodlight such that solar floodlight during the day when there is solar, it charges. Then at night
it uses
the energy that was charged throughout the day, and it's automatic. Hiyo kitu giza ikiingia inajiwasha. So some young people have gone into that, but also now that is if you're in the electrical business. But now for some people, what sustainability has looked like, they are now using solar solutions. So if someone is doing farming, or these days atupende kuita farming, agribusiness. So if you're doing agribusiness, you find someone, maybe they have put irrigation. They are using a solar water pump. So this water pump that they are using in their farm to irrigate is not using electricity. It's using solar solar power. So that is what, and that is a mindset people are now moving into. And that's why right now, if you go to a bank, you find sometimes they are selling your product. They say, oh, we can sell you a solar water pump, we can sell you a solar panel, and you'll be paying pole pole. And sometimes even circles these days, you find circles, they have products, some circles, for example, they would buy a member a cow, and then that cow you pay over 12 months, 18 months. Now they're saying, we can sell you a solar solution, you pay it over 12 months or 18 months. You see, it's a loan. It is. But because that loan is geared to help you buy a sustainability product, now that is also the realm of sustainable finance. Because, the reason I'm giving you these examples, people have believed sustainable finance is something so complicated that they cannot relate to. It looks like a jargon. Exactly. But now the issue is, anytime you start using products that are geared towards sustainability, and there's a finance element to it, maybe it's a loan that you're getting, now this is sustainable finance. That's so profound and interesting. But I know there's someone who is watching us, a young person, and they're thinking, okay, how does this even impact my life to start with? Or maybe someone is thinking, well, it's a good thing, but where do I even start from? Let's start with the first one. How does it impact your life? Kenya, recently we had long rains. So, some young people don't know about seasons in this country. In country, we don't have winter and summer and spring and autumn, but we have long rains and short rains. Long rains in Kenya are March, April, May. So now we are at the end of the long rains. Now what happened during these long rains, the long rains became so much, especially in April, and we had a lot of flooding. And by the forecast of the meteorological department, by this May, the rains will go down. Now what has happened is, in a lot of places in Kenya where hakuna good forest cover, watu wamekata miti, they were really affected by the floods. Because what happened is, when it rains, what trees do, trees act as a good cover for soil erosion. Hizi vitu tulikuwa tunasikia primary, but we never thought where to apply. So there was a lot of being carried away. Because some bridges were carried away, we had more than 300 people die. So what we are trying to do is, as a country, to say, how can we reduce on cutting down of trees? How can we reduce using charcoal? How can we reduce a form of agriculture that wastes away the environment? Because some of these things also have to do with even the form of agriculture you do. Because we had recently this kind about fake fertilizer. Oh my God. Because you see, as a country, we are also careful about the quality of soil, because the quality of soil affects the yield that you get. So when someone asks, how does this affect me? It affects you because you could be in an area where you're very vulnerable to the effects of erosion. You're very vulnerable to the effects of rains. Or you could be in an area because the quality of soil has really reduced over time. Mukipanda mahindi hamvuni kitu. Yes, and maybe also you could be there, you're thinking of going into farming. So these are some of the elements you need to think at. Ukianza farming, usianze tu farming. No. What are the soils in this area look like? Talk to the farmers in that area. Oh, Lise, in the last 3 harvests, mulipata kitu. If you're a young person, you have a chama, mnafikiria kubai buroti, maguta. You are thinking of buying land. This is a time to go and see which areas should you actually buy land. Were they affected by the floods and all that? So it affects us because it affects our food. It affects our investments and this kind of thing. So there's a very direct relation between what is happening in the sustainability space and your own quality of life. Yes.
Now, the other question was, now someone thinks, now this is a good initiative, something maybe I would want to go into. But now they are trying to do their math. They're 1, 2, 3, and complicated.
Yeah, me, I think first, I am a big proponent. Ukisikia sustainable finance, usiende to sustainable finance. You need to ask yourself, in the business that I do, how does it relate to sustainability?
Oh yeah.
So let me start with the farmer. The reason I keep coming back to the farmer, Kenya has the formal sector, people who get a salary end of month, and informal sector.
That is true.
The biggest employer in Kenya is the informal sector. But even if you go further down, the biggest employer in the informal sector is the farmer. Farmers are the most people in the informal sector. If you come to the formal sector, the biggest employer in the formal sector is the education. TSC is the biggest employer, and even outside TSC, teachers are the most. And that's why I always say the way to make this country happy is make the farmer happy and the teacher happy. If you can make the farmer happy and the teacher happy, 60 or 70% of the country is okay.
Wow.
Now let's focus on the informal sector. Maybe you're a chicken farmer. Now, farmers recently, they were complaining that the cost of feeds has increased. So you need to ask yourself, okay, if me, I'm a chicken farmer where I'm sourcing my feeds, if those feeds are being done by companies, which means if the cost of power goes up, the cost of feeds goes up.
Yeah, definitely.
Then you need to start asking yourself, how can I start sourcing my feeds differently? Who else is supplying feeds in the market? And are they more competitive or not? Now, I know some farmers, for example, chicken farmers, you know, chicks, they require a lot of warmth, especially at night. Now, you see a lot of farmers, they have now moved to putting solar lighting. So you put solar bulbs in your chicken, whatever thing, and then you have the panels outside. So during the day, they get charged, and then during the night they get used. People are also moving to, you know, there are these kind of bulbs where steam hata zikipotea, those bulbs stay on.
The energy savers.
Yes, for not even savers. There are some now, if you put a bulb and then steamer zipotea, that bulb stays on for another 3 or 4 hours, even after steamer zimepotea.
Wow.
And I recently bought those bulbs even for myself. Do you know how much they cost? They cost 300 bob.
Are you for real?
Yes, which means
there's something for
yes.
us.
So it means even when steamer goes away, you can still be on for another 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
But you know, this is knowledge people do not have.
Yeah, true.
Me, and I was told by someone who supplies bulbs. And akaniambia, kuna hizi bulbs una nini 3 zinaka 3 to 4 hours after stima zimepotea. And I thought sasa atataja mabei kubwa. Akaniambia hapana, imagine it's 300 bob. And people don't know this. And they're coming from China, these bulbs. So this is the kind of knowledge I think a lot of young people and entrepreneurs need to go in, not just for business, even for your own life and your own lifestyle. Now, the other thing is also things like cost of power. How do we reduce wastage? A lot of food in this country is wasted. You know, around the world, 30 to 40% of all food that is produced gets wasted. Yes. And in Kenya, that percentage is close to 70.
What?
Because tuseme there is something like potatoes. Or let me use nyanya because it's one of the most wasted. Tomatoes. You buy tomato. Where do you buy your tomatoes? From the market.
Yeah.
When do you think they were harvested? If you buy tomatoes today, when do you think they were harvested?
Maybe a couple of days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, what is happening between the harvest and you buying them? Because hata ukienda wewe unaanza kufinya unachagua zile zenye
zimeiva.
Ama huangalia zenye zimeiva, unaangalia yenye haija overripe.
Yeah, yenye takusukuma
some days, right? Yeah. So, how much of tomatoes do you think get wasted from harvest? And we call this post-harvest losses. And the post-harvest losses in this country, say for tomatoes, is close to 70%.
That's a big number.
So, the other thing, that's why you see now some young people, they have gone into, they source tomatoes, they sell, but now they use these coolers. Mtu anaweka cooler kwa gari. Because they know if I have a cooler, if I was wasting 50% of my stock,
produce,
I can cut that by half just by putting the tomato in a cooler. So these are kind of the innovations people are starting. Someone is going, buying tomatoes, putting them in a cooler. So they know, even if I end up selling at the same price like my competition, I will sell more because mimi sina losses kwa stock yangu. So this is a kind of mindset people need to have, but not also just for business, even for your own lifestyle. When you buy, you say, okay, instead of even using my fridge, I can buy things that, you know, they have not been very ripe, and then you keep them for longer. And this the mindset I'm trying here to push is, when we think of sustainability, let's not think from a business perspective only. Also think from your own lifestyle perspective. How do you source? Where do you buy things? Yeah.
Now, previously you've mentioned about the current climate and the changes that are happening. And how has that impacted the current economy and us going into the next level of sustainability finance?
So Kenya has been very much affected, especially. So before climate, a number of things have happened together. We have had, in 2019, President Uhuru announced there was a drought in Kenya. And now we just having floods. So in a period of 45 years, we have moved from droughts to floods. Then Russia invaded Ukraine. And I don't know if you know, a lot of the wheat and that is sold around the world comes from Ukraine and Russia. I think actually combined, Ukraine and Russia produces 70% of the world wheat. Now, that has also affected something else, exchange rate.
Definitely.
Because when the price of wheat goes up, it means you're importing a lot. The more you're importing a lot, it means your currency
is hiking.
The shilling becomes weaker. So you're buying very expensive.
Just true.
So all these things have happened together. So you had a drought,
and
then even before the floods we had the war, and then here locally you have floods. Now we're having issues to do with our own fertilizers, and then even like water, because a lot of agriculture in Kenya is rain fed. And now that's why you realize a lot of people now, I'd say, if you're in farming and you're depending on the rain, that is the first thing you really need to rethink. Yeah, because it's not sustainable, right? You need to go to either you're going to do irrigation or you're going to do greenhouse. And I'm talking from experience. Me, I've lost money in doing tomato farming. And I realized I really have to do greenhouse or something like that. So this is how it has affected our economy. And you know, when people say, hey, vitu zinapata bei, the biggest inflation in this country is food inflation. So when food gets priced, it affects everything else. So that is what the impact had looked like. So in terms of inflation, in terms of cost of food, and in terms of exchange rate, because we are net importers of a lot of the things that we use as a country. And now a lot of young people, now what they're realizing, as youth people, you find a lot of people now, they want to enter in the import business. Even me, if you can give me a very good check, if you right now you give me a check of like 30 million, me, I will go into import. Because now people have realized, wait, we can source things cheaper. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in import. So import, there are various opportunities, and I like talking about this. So there's opportunity, and maybe we may not exhaust it on this topic. There's an opportunity in clearing and forwarding. Many people, they are realizing, a lot of people are importing, and it's becoming very expensive to do the whole distribution, clearing and forwarding. So you find there's like a friend I visited recently. He's now going to the clearing and forwarding from China. So what you do is, me, I import, but I help clear your cargo, and I clear somebody else's cargo and somebody else's cargo. So I am aggregating. So the cost is reducing. And I know some young people, they are thinking, hey, import and export, this is not my thing. But I'm also planting that seed, that as you think about the businesses you want to do in the future, that is a very good opportunity. Import, clearing and forwarding. Some things is just reselling. People are importing things from wherever. If it's appliances, if it's clothes, and then when they come here, they're not even selling retail. They are selling to people who sell. So they are doing wholesale. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for that. Then there are also youths who have figured, you know, they want to import, they want to export, and they are going into these special economic zones.
Yeah.
You know, they've heard about these special economic zones. Some people don't know what they are. Special economic zones is this. There are these economic zones the government has set where you can go establish a business. Yeah. You get some rebates on. Rebates is like a discount on your tax. You set up a business there. Kama you're making like clothes, and then you sell to other markets, and then you get a rebate or a discount on your tax. So these are some of the businesses I want. And you know, the reason I'm not, you know, too keen, somebody might think this is our way. The reason some people have not thought about this, they don't have the information. So part of this is making people aware that these are some of the things that exist and people are doing. There's something else people are doing. There are people now who, in their business, they use bikes. Boda.
Like for distribution.
Even for their own business, we talk on a boda. Now we find some people who are going into electric boda.
Okay.
Have you seen an electric boda?
Not
I should take you to. There's an assembly plant here in Ruiru. I visited recently to see how they assemble. I should take you there so that you can see an electric boda. Because now what is happening is, mtu ana realize kama mimi ushinda kwa boda, neza jaribu, I start using an electric boda where I charge. So what happens is you charge. Once you're done, you go to a charging station, you swap. You give them the battery that is used.
Or you take another charge.
Yeah, that is charged. And now and you know what is going to happen? The more people start using electric boda in this country, the more the cost of power and the cost of bodas will go down because the demand is high. So there are a lot of people now, they're doing electric boda. I have a friend of mine, he sells water in Nanyuki. Okay. So he's you know these refill stations for water. So he distributes water in Nanyuki, and he has 2 bodas. So he told me one is electric, one is not. So he told me anytime he has clients who are just within the city, he uses the electric boda. Because for an electric boda to make sense to you, you have to be someone who drives that boda for so many kilometers. So you do a lot, and you're off-road sana. Because you know electric boda is, off-road sana, you need a lot of power.
Yeah, it is true.
But now if you're within the city, but also you're doing a lot of kilometers, because the more you're doing so many kilometers, it becomes cost efficient. Now for him, because he's always distributing water within the city, he uses an electric boda. Wow. And for, you know, the only, actually, some viewer may not know, because I know a lot of people, maybe even the boda riders, the only challenge with an electric boda from the word go is the initial cost.
It's pricey.
It's pricey compared to a normal boda. So if for you, boda is a part of your core business, maybe you run maybe a hardware, you run a warehouse, you run a business where you distribute things a lot using a boda, which you own maybe for the company, and you can be able to afford it from a business perspective, to buy it, to be part of the investment of the company. It is something you can actually try. Actually, that is the truth. The reason most people are not using electric boda is the cost, but also too, charging ports. So you find it's mostly in cities where you can, because those charging ports are usually at petrol stations. Some petrol stations, they have put charging ports for the bikes. Because what is being charged is the battery. So if someone is listening to us and, you know, a bike is part of their core business, they should explore buying an electric. Yes.
Wow. Even as you're still on the climate change and all this, the other thing was, how can we say sustainable finance has helped to mitigate this risk that we have with the current change in climate?
What it has helped us to reduce our emissions. Because then if you're looking at an electric boda, there is no emission coming from it. But 2, it's good for an environment, because we are preserving the environment.
Sure.
So it's really, of course, there are challenges. I mean, a lot of these things, they require a lot of initiative to get it done. But of course, like life, like everything else, you need initiative.
It is true.
But they have helped on the environment, but also they have made us young people think about new ways of doing things. So me, I'll give you a practical example.
Please do.
Personally, as a lifestyle, I am moving to non-iron shirts.
Okay. Guys, you're listening.
Yes, because I realized a huge part of your power bill ni pasi.
It is true.
Because, you know, we don't have very efficient irons.
Yeah.
Na unasikianga watu wengine kwa nyumba, mzazi anashinda akisema, hiyo ni pasi mumewasha ama mumewacha kama mjazima.
I know.
And I realized if I can start moving to shirts, which I don't
need to iron,
which people call non-irons. Me personally, as a lifestyle, I am trying to move to non-irons. The way I'm doing it, for every new shirt I buy, I am buying non-irons.
You replace.
I'm replacing. So also it has made us as a lifestyle to think more about how do we move to that from a lifestyle perspective. But also the other thing, it has made now another opportunity is collective investment. What is collective investment? Chama.
Yeah.
Mko na group mnafanyanga merry-go-round. You know, some of us friends are very good with merry-go-round. It's making now people think, tukifanya merry-go-round yetu, ni wapi tunaweza ingia biashara or invest in something that is in this sustainable finance piece. So it's making people, even as they invest collectively, to think about those kind of things that are sustainable. And so it's changing our way of doing things. And you realize there's something I'm insisting, not only business, but also lifestyle. Because our lifestyle also needs to be sustainable. You have to do things, you have to reduce waste yourself. So let me give you a practical example. A few years ago, when Professor Judy Wakungu was the Minister of Environment of Kenya, she banned use of plastic bags. And let me tell you, that has really helped this country to reduce plastic waste. What she did, she forced us to use a lifestyle. Watu walikuwa naenda supermarket wanasema, sasa bila plastic tuteka vitu wapi? But now you go there, you know, let me surprise you. Kitambo, people used to feel, kwanza as youths or middle class, hawezi beba gunia.
How now?
But now, people, you go to a supermarket, the gunia you're given, it's so well branded.
It's true.
Even when you carry a gunia, you don't feel ashamed of carrying a gunia because that gunia is not even looking white or grey. Imechapwa color ya supermarket. Hata sitataja supermarket, sitaki kupromote any supermarket. Imechapwa color ya supermarket. It's so well branded. Hata ukibeba hiyo gunia,
you're very okay.
Even if you're in a suit or you're in your nice high heels, you're very okay, right?
It is true.
So it brought this change.
An innovation.
And that is what we need as a country, to think about lifestyle change, so that we start using plastic. Now we are moving to gunia. And you know, kitambo, how in your house you used to have a drawer where you put plastic bags. Now you have a drawer where you put your two gunias. And you put your packaging. So that is what we have to think about, lifestyle change. The reason I'm talking about lifestyle is, the reality is, to the viewer, not all of us will go into sustainable finance business, but at least all of us need to think about sustainability in how we do our lifestyle. So me pango nime-move to non-irons, but also for other reasons. Me, I don't like ironing. And I figured if I can move to non-irons, I'm going to iron less. But also too, it's good for the environment because I'm not using electric power in ironing. So this is the mindset I want people to have in terms of lifestyle and in terms of how can you be sustainable in your own lifestyle. And if you can afford, even tell young people, one of the best birthday gifts you can buy your parents, start saving now for your parents' next birthday. If it is next year, kama imeisha, save, buy them a Jikokoa Pro Max, buy them an electric Jikokoa, ili kama anatumianga jiko ya kawaida aondoke hiyo, at least hata moshi kwa sababu hiyo kitu
Inapungua.
haina moshi, moshi inapungua.
Inapungua.
These are lifestyle changes. And that is something I like telling people. If your mzazi is using normal charcoal, even charcoal, buy them an efficient cook stove. It will use less charcoal. You can decide whether you want to buy the one for charcoal or wood. You can decide whether you want to buy the one for briquettes. Buy them that.
Wow.
And that is going to help them with their lifestyle. Because also, you see their health benefits. Because a lot of this pollution that comes from charcoal, it is also not very good for the environment. Yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Our viewer, I hope you're having your pen and paper, because these are so much notes that we are taking today, so much information that we are getting from our guest tonight. And as you've heard, it's not just about a sustainable finance, it's also a sustainable lifestyle. So don't go far. We are going to take a very short break and we'll be right back. Keep it here at PrayerCaveTV. Welcome back, our viewer. Thank you so much for always keeping it here at PrayerCaveTV. And I believe that you're enjoying our conversation tonight, even as we talk matters climate, a sustainable finance. And as we have been told, it is not just about finance, but also lifestyle. And maybe we can talk more about the sustainable lifestyle, even as we continue the conversation. What do you think we should what other things should we embrace that will help us to live this kind of lifestyle?
Now, when you think about sustainability and climate change, one key aspect is, so there are two key aspects. One is diet. What you eat, how is it being sourced? And that's where you realize, I don't know if you've seen this revolution of young people, especially middle class. Wanacha kula nyama. I don't know if you've seen that trend.
We are not doing that.
People have started being vegetarian. But you need to ask, where is this trend coming from? It's a European trend, and mostly from the Western market, because there a lot of the meat is produced industrial. So that meat has spent so much industrial process, energy. But a lot of the meat here is kuku za kienyeji. Kama it's your pigs, it's not industrial. Ni hizo umeweka hapo, unazipatia hata ile chakula mumebakisha. But it's in terms of lifestyle. So when you see people becoming vegetarian and all this, it's a lifestyle change. Now, sometimes you find someone, they don't like cooking. They could be a man or a woman. Someone has a fridge. Your fridge inakona tu mayai.
Anatumia kama kabati.
Anatumia fridge kama kabati. Anaweka tu mayai, iko na ice cubes akitaka kukunywa soda ama whatever they drink. Now, in that person's power bill, they're not being energy efficient.
Just true.
Because hizo mayai si lazima ziwekwe kwa fridge. So kama upendi kupika, your fridge is always having nothing, but your fridge is always on. This is a lifestyle change we are talking about. Another lifestyle change, you find a family, maybe it's a couple, they have 4 kids or whatever, family of 6. Wameka coil ile ya bafu ya majimoto. But now, what people are now doing, they're investing in this, there is this solar heating just for water. So all your water that comes to your bathroom has been solar heated. That is a lifestyle change. So if you're a family and you can afford to move to solar heating for your water, because there are things we will do for the rest of our lives as long as God keeps us.
True.
We will always eat.
Shower.
We will always shower, hopefully.
Hopefully.
We will always sleep.
Yeah, true.
And we will always dress. No. So if you're able to bring in lifestyle change in your feeding, in your diet, in your showering, in your clothing, and in your sleeping, we are going to achieve a lot in terms of lifestyle change. So if you're there and you're using your fridge as a cupboard, please give it away. It's time to give that fridge away to somebody who needs it more. Yes. Absolutely. And if you're there as a family, you're watching this show and you can be able to move to solar heating for your showering, do that. And if you can see a business opportunity in all these things,
kindly venture into them.
Kindly venture into it. Yes.
Awesome. Talking about we are much talking about the sustainable finance.
Yeah.
And how do you think, or how has it created a platform for everyone, equitability especially, because this thing, it goes from the economy to the society and to the environment. How has it brought equity amongst the people?
So one thing that it has helped is people in very low income households. They have found a way, so like a solar installation as an example, to be able to access power cheaply. You know, one of the things President Uhuru Kenyatta did was last mile distribution. Hata kwetu Ushago stima ilifika. There is a steamer in our Ushago. But you find a lot of people there, and some of them are watching, their only power bill is they have a phone, they charge. Sometimes they don't have a TV. Or if they have a TV, it's not using as much power.
It's only watched at night.
Yeah, it's a TV, yes, and they just have a charger and a few things. They don't have a plan. They don't have a blender or whatever and all these things. So some of those people, they are moved to solar.
Sure.
Because they don't have a bill at the end of the month. The only thing is upfront cost. And I told you, if you're also able to bring that change in your family, maybe have solar. Do it. It has helped women, especially clean cooking. Because a lot of people who are affected by the health effects of charcoal and the health effects of air pollution, and the smoke, it's women. So as people have moved to clean cooking, it has really helped a lot of women who have become very vulnerable to these things. One thing that it has also helped is now we have all these financiers, including SACCOs, who are now creating this kind of products which are on the sustainable front. So now people are able to take those things on loan. And the reason I like mentioning loans is because a lot of people don't have upfront money to pay upfront. So if you can give them a payment plan, pole, it helps. Even phones, you know, some people even have phones that you pay every month. Installments. So these kind of things, I think they've helped, because you know what installment helps is something you could have bought in 10 years. You get it now, because you can save for 10 years or buy it, or you can get it now and pay for the next 10 years. You see, so it has helped people to get those solutions that they can get. They can get upfront. So these are some of the changes that we are currently seeing. Another thing is tree planting. Now you find a youth group, they bought shamba, they don't have money to build an apartment. So now they are saying, let's plant trees, give ourselves 10 years, and then those trees, we sell them. So this is also something else people are discovering. People are planting trees. You know, I recently met Amze. We become recent friends. And he's an entrepreneur, he's an industrialist in this country. And he was asking me what to do with his land. He's thinking about this climate change thing. He has 65,000 acres in the coast.
What?
65,000. And he was telling me he don't know whether he should do trees, which if he does trees, he's not sure which ones he should do, because now it's like an unchecked forest, and now he wants to be more practical with it. And then he told me, you know, in Isiolo, I have around 200k acres. So from Meru, Isiolo, going that way.
Like your friend.
Yeah. Yeah, he's an industrialist, so, and he knows I do these climate change things. And he was like, for this land, because I want to do at some point industry, but now I want to do something to do with trees. He was like, you know, what trees should we plant, this kind of thing. And I was telling him, you have close to 300k acres. I was telling him the best way, you just need to do a private forest. And you get them. Now, for those people now, what they're doing, you've heard about carbon credits. So for those kind of people, what they're doing is, and here I don't want to be very complicated, but how this works is, there is something called a carbon registry. Carbon registry is where you come up with carbon assets. What are carbon assets? It's like you come up with, say, a private farm, which is like trees. And then what you do on those trees, you plant trees of a particular type because they help with absorbing carbon of a particular type. And usually this depends with the length of the tree and the girth of the tree, how wide the tree is, and the tree type. Because also you don't want a tree that consumes a lot of water, because it's not good for the environment. And then what they do is they register it onto these things called carbon registry, and then you have somebody somewhere who pays you for doing that, because you're helping with taking away carbon from the atmosphere. So you have people who are now doing these carbon projects, and that is one of the works I do as a climate finance specialist. I help people with carbon projects, and that's why I was actually meeting this a friend of mine, because he knows I'm into like carbon projects, and so we were trying to see what's best for his land. So this is also another business now. People like us who are in the climate finance space are venturing into carbon projects, and how people can earn carbon credits from these kind of things. So as I'm saying, it's a whole spectrum, all the way from somebody who this is their specialty to so it could be, if you're into climate finance or carbon projects, all the way to lifestyle, how you can actually change your lifestyle to become more sustainable. And then, as we said, because it's sustainability, then where does the finance come in? And now that intersection is now what sustainable finance looks like. And right now, because young people now, since God willing, God is gonna give us a huge horizon. Now, as you source for something, as you establish a business, as you buy an asset, because you're gonna buy an asset, you're gonna buy a car, you're gonna buy build a home, you're gonna construct. I want you to think about, am I sourcing responsibly? Am I thinking about sustainability in what I am buying? Is this the most energy efficient car I can buy? Is this the most energy efficient iron box I can buy? Is this the most energy efficient bike I can buy, appliance I can buy, so that it becomes a lifestyle?
We've mentioned the women, the young people, and we also have these marginalized people. How is this even helping them?
I think for marginalized people, it has been a huge challenge, because you find, for example, in the north of Kenya, sometimes, using that as an example, because of the arid land, there hasn't been a lot that they have been able to do. The one advantage we've seen in arid land is wind power. And solar farms, because there is a lot of solar and there's a lot of wind. Now, the challenge usually is in revenue sharing. When these projects are done in their communities, do they get a share of the revenue? And here, I have been having meetings with a couple of, been helping at least 2 county governments, because they are thinking, how can they do these kind of projects in a way that the community gets gets to benefit. And this is something county governments are really thinking a lot, because natural resources is a devolved function. So county governments are really thinking about how to do this. And like right now, I'm having conversations with one of the counties, which I'll not mention, just helping them in terms of how can they do community projects which are around climate change, and how they can also be able to attract even donors, because they have their own revenue as a county, but also they need a lot of maybe donor collaboration or partnership, and how they can think of projects that can help the community. One thing they are doing, which I found really useful, they have figured in the arid area, while they do not have a lot of water, the water table isn't very low. The water table is accessible. Those who don't know water table is, when you start digging a land, is how far you go before you can actually reach to the water. So what they've now done is, one of the institutions that has a lot of land in this country is schools. Think about the primary school you went and how much land the school had from the field and whatever. So now one thing they are doing is, they have entered into projects of water drilling. So they drill boreholes
around the community.
No, in a school setup. but this water is accessible to people in the community. Because one thing they figured, if they drill the borehole in the community, the schools may not be able to access the water. But if they do it in the school, the community can access, and also the school can use that. So they are doing this. So they've mapped out the whole county and where they were going to drill boreholes for people to be able to access the water. And you know, also something else they are doing is because of the animals. Sometimes when you drill a borehole, these animals are always coming and destroying this thing at the top for draining the water. So what they are realizing is they're coming up with that structure, trying to do something that cannot be destroyed by animals.
Something sustainable.
Yes, something sustainable. So water is also going to be a big challenge, because water in this country is also very expensive. If you look at your water bill. Now think about an industry, someone who's running a factory. For example, think about someone who's making beverage. Maybe you're a bottler of, say, Coca-Cola, because we have many bottling plants in the country. Think about how much water they use. So if there's a way they can source water, which maybe involves, maybe they source from borehole, and maybe they do a purification system, and so that the water is actually clean for use. That is one thing that people are actually doing. So there's a lot that can actually be done in this space, including in the water space.
So in your opinion, maybe you can tell us what does the future look like? What are these things that you're looking forward to that is going to help us combat this issue of climate change, and also that we'll be going to go into the next level of sustainability? Because currently what we see is we are trying to make the baby steps into venturing into sustainable finance. So how does the future look like, in your opinion?
So first, climate change is not an isolated thing. So there's this thing that people have heard a lot, ESG. So ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. What does that mean? Environmental is about environmental protection, or what we call environmental stewardship. Social is about social impact, the way you're asking me about, like vulnerable communities, inclusivity, bringing everyone along. And governance is things around, transparency, accountability, integrity, and all these things. So climate change, even if it looks more than environment, it's cross-cutting, because it has implications for social. In fact, people who are most socially vulnerable, like low-income households or no-income households, they are the most vulnerable to the effects.
It is true.
Because I have a friend of mine, when these floods happened, water came into her house, and she got displaced with her 2 kids. And actually she reached out to just a few friends of us. We did a small fundraiser just to help her move. Now, your ability to adapt to such a thing depends also on how much money you have, maybe. So you find someone who is maybe socially most exposed, even when something like that happens, like flooding, they become more exposed. So I think one we've said about lifestyles, we have to think about sustainable lifestyle. Whatever you buy, going forward right now, the truth is, Boyani, most appliances you will own in life, they are ahead of you.
It is true.
They are the ones you haven't bought, right?
It's true, definitely.
Because they are cars you haven't bought. They are appliances you haven't bought. They are machines you haven't bought. There are things you haven't bought. Think about sustainability. Is this the best? Am I being wasteful? I think the other future we are going to see is, I think things will become more digitalized. Because a lot of the waste we see is also in terms of manual things. These days sometimes we don't print things that we could print. Siku hizi tu unasema angalia WhatsApp.
It is true.
Angalia WhatsApp.
We have reduced paper.
We've reduced that. So this is what is going to matter. But the reason you realize, when I talk about sustainability, I emphasize on the mindset. Because human beings are creatures of habit and creatures of incentive. Anything that you do as a human, it is because you're habituated to doing it, or there is an incentive Maybe you came to work today, I want to think it's incentive, because maybe if you stop coming to work, then you'll lose the job.
It is true.
Or it could be habit is because you're passionate about what you do. So when we think about sustainability, we have to think about how do we start creating habits that are sustainable, or start having incentives that are sustainable, right? And sometimes government does this incentive through taxes. You know, they don't want you to use a particular thing, they put a high tax on it, or they want you to use a particular thing, they make it VAT exempt too. So it's available. It's available and it's more affordable. So that is a mindset I want us to think in terms of always think about your habits and think about your incentives and how to think about. And also now when you talk on the business side, it's more on the incentive side. People who are now doing importing, it's because the incentive, they seen there's money in you bring something at this price and then you sell with this particular margin.
There's a profit margin.
There's a profit margin. So I think when I think about the future, I think about how our consumption patterns are going to change. I think about digital and how a lot of things are going to be digitized. And now going forward, a lot of banks, because I work with banks a lot. In fact, banks have been one of my biggest clients in the work I do. Banks now, even as you go to apply for a loan, they want to know what are you doing about your sustainability. Right now, if you go take a loan and maybe you're an industry, maybe for someone listening to us and you own an industry, they want to know about your water efficiency. They want to know about your water use. How are you planning to reduce your water use? How are you planning to reduce your energy use and these kind of things? So for at least banks, businesses that need to doing this. And the last thing I'll say on that, document. Start keeping track. Know what is your water bill. If you're a business, have records of it. You know, a lot of people, they do business without record keeping. And you know what they say? You cannot manage what you cannot measure.
It is true.
So you need to
improve
yes, people need to start documenting. Know what is your water use, know what is your energy use, and start saying, okay, if I do this, have I noted any improvement? And this kind of, and a lot of young people, they don't document things. I document everything. In fact, even when we say we meet someone and we agree, I always text them after that, say, oh, we said kesho 9. So that we have a common reference. There's no saying, nilisikia. No, we have a common reference that is written. We said we'll meet at this, agreed at this time. So this kind of things, it's for the youth, it's behavior change. Behavior change. And when you start noticing improvements, point them out, say, okay, here we could actually change this. Here we could actually change this other thing. So I think behavior change and consumer patterns is going to influence the future.
Wow, that looks a very promising future ahead of us. And now, even as we come to a close of today's episode, maybe you can just give us a parting shot, a word of encouragement or a challenge for the young people who are watching us tonight.
I think for me, my parting shot is to say, let's think about sustainability in terms of our lifestyle, in terms of our business, in terms of how we do financing of everything. Let's think about our habits. I think a lot of change will not come from the things we do or learn. A lot of change for us as youth, for this nation and for the world, will be about the things we unlearn.
Wow.
Things that we do differently. We are accustomed to this way of doing things. And then we start doing these things the other way. But also let us participate in community life. Community life, I mean, if there's a project happening where you live and it involves the sustainability of your community, either school, security, participate.
Be part of it.
If there's public participation happening within your local area and you can be able to peana maoni yako, usiseme sina maoni.
Please note that.
Yes. Participate. Let's also participate in community life, because a lot of changes that we are going to see in society are going to come from collective effort. Because there's very little I can do as myself to change the country. But if we do me and you, you know, one can chase 1,000, two can chase 10,000.
We go the Harambe way.
Yes. So let's participate in community life. Let's be a collective. And the last thing I will say, seek knowledge. If you're here and you've learned something from this show, always look for knowledge. Read, listen to shows. Always find for something that will make you unlearn the way you're doing things. And the last thing I'll say, doesn't, so someone said a quote, those who can read and do not read are not any better than those who cannot read. Which means action is what matters. It doesn't matter how much you know. If you have known something and you're not putting it into practice, you're not any better than the person who does not know or does not know that. So whatever you've learned on today's show and you don't act on it, you're not any different from someone who does not know. So action is what matters. And so let's be action oriented as as young people, and also as the future of this country, and to make things possible.
Absolutely. I cannot add anything on top of that. That's so much information that we have had tonight, but we have told action is everything. So you might have had all this and do nothing, then it will go to a waste. But let's be intentional into implementing what we've learned tonight, and not just for us, even for the people around us. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was such a wonderful having you here, and thank you, our guests.
Thank you for having me.
Time for us. And until next Saturday, keep it here at Prayer Cave TV. See you.
Thank you.